that if you're familiar with the mission discourse of the 12 apostles, so for example, in Matthew chapter 10, when Jesus sends out the 12 and tells them to cure the sick and to cast out demons and to preach about the kingdom of God, and that he's sending them out as lambs in the midst of wolves, you're going to notice a lot of parallels, okay? So the mission of the 70 and the mission of the 12 parallel one another. They clearly have the same kind of apostolic and evangelistic function and mission that the earlier mission of the apostles has. Jesus is giving them the authority to cast out demons and proclaim the coming of the kingdom of God as he sends them out 2 by 2 into the various towns and cities surrounding them. So that's the first point. This is a similar mission discourse to that of the 12. However, obviously, there's a big difference, which is that it's not the 12, but this group of the 70, which only Luke tells us about. Now, as soon as I say the 70, you get into the question of, is it 70 or 72? Now, the Revised Standard Version here has 70, and then in a footnote, it has other ancient manuscripts read 72. And the New American Bible says 72. And so you might be wondering, well, wait, how many disciples is it? And the answer is, we don't know. This is one of those discrepancies in what scholars call text criticism. It's the comparison of ancient manuscripts. And when there are discrepancies in ancient manuscripts, at some point an error crept in where one scribe wrote one thing and another scribe wrote another thing, and there's a discrepancy between the various copies of the New Testament that we have from antiquity. Now, this one is actually not a very big deal. It's pretty easily explained if you know your Old Testament. Okay, so a couple of points here. First, there are very reliable ancient Greek manuscripts that have the number 70 here. So Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Alexandrinus. These are two ancient copies of the New Testament in Greek that are considered very reliable, very authoritative from the 4th century AD. They have 70. Other copies of Luke, like Papyrus 75 or Codex Vaticanus, have 72. So the ancient manuscript evidence is kind of equally divided. And so, as you might expect, scholars are equally divided about which one's more original. In this case, though, I don't think we actually have to decide on the original, although I have my opinions, because they mean basically the same thing, if you know the Old Testament background. Because in the Old Testament, the number 70 has a significance that's tied to the priestly elders that Moses appoints during the time of the Exodus. So you might recall in Exodus chapter 24, when Moses is establishing the Old Covenant, he chooses 70 elders, the Greek word there is presbyteros, to act as basically mediators, priestly mediators between God and the 12 tribes of Israel. And they come up the mountain of Sinai with Moses to offer sacrifice on behalf of the people of Israel. And these 70 elders, later on in the book of Numbers in chapter 11, verse 16 through 30, Moses takes these 70 elders and he appoints them to help him administrate and govern this massive number of people as they're traveling through the desert. You might remember in the book of Numbers, chapter 11, Moses is basically like up to his neck in administration, and he can't possibly do all the work that it entails. And his father-in-law, Jethro, says, well, appoint 70 men to assist you, right, to govern the 12 tribes of Israel. And when he does this is important, the Spirit comes down upon the 70 elders, and they're anointed to lead the people of Israel. They are with Moses at the tabernacle. But what happens is 2 other men outside the camp, their names are Eldad and Medad, neither one of those very popular names in later Christian tradition, also receive the Spirit, even though they're outside of the confines of the group that Moses has gathered. And so what happens is, from the book of Numbers, an ambivalence or an ambiguity arises. How many elders were there? How many priestly elders were there at the time of the Exodus? Well, you could make the case that it was 70 on the basis of Mount Sinai, but you could also make the case that there were 72 elders on the basis of the book of Numbers. Both are true, right? What matters, though, is that in both cases, the 70 or 72 represent a priestly hierarchy of appointed leaders underneath Moses and then the 12 philarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel. So, if you're Jesus, and it's the 1st century AD, and people are saying you're the Messiah, and you gather not just a group of 12 around you, but also you appoint 70 other disciples around you, what are you doing? What are you saying? What's the implication of that act? Well, it's not just that you're the new Moses and there's a new Exodus, but something much more. You are setting up a priestly hierarchy of appointed leaders underneath you, not just to bring the good news to the 12 tribes of Israel, but to bring the good news to all the nations. So it's an implicit act of claim of authority on Jesus' part. It's an implicit establishment of a priestly hierarchy on Jesus' part. And it's also an anticipation of the fact that the gospel is going to go not just to the 12 tribes of Israel, but to all the nations of the world. So if you look on one of the handouts that I have for the Master Readings Explained, it's basically a hierarchy that's based on the Old Testament. So in the Old Testament, you had Moses, and then next to him you had Aaron, and then you had Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, the 3 who go up the mountain with Moses, and then you had the 12 tribes and the 70 elders. So 1, 3, 12, 70. Moses, Aaron and his 2 sons, the 3, the 12 tribes, and then the 70 elders. Jesus, in the New Testament, what does he do? He's at the top. Jesus is number 1. Peter is above the 12, but he's a member of the 12. Then you have the 3, Peter, James, and John, just like Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu. Then you have the 12 apostles. And then only Luke tells us that there's a 5th group, and it's the 70 disciples. Now, is that a coincidence? Did Jesus know that he was setting up a hierarchy of priestly groups with symbolic numbers that echo the Exodus from Egypt? I think so. I don't think that's a coincidence. But it's fascinating because when people think about Jesus, I can't tell you how many times I've read this in books, well, Jesus didn't establish a priesthood. He didn't establish a ministerial priesthood. He just had groups of followers and disciples, and they all kind of, bandied about the countryside, that there was no organization to it. Nothing could be further from the truth. You would only think that if you're ignorant of the Old Testament. Any 1st century Jew who knows the scriptures knows that if this guy is walking around Judea and he's got himself at the top, he's got these 3 guys that are intimate with him, he's got 12, and then he adds 70 to it, everyone knows what he's doing here. He's setting up a new priesthood.